Okay, today let's take a quick look at the Frazetta Icon Collectibles Fire and Ice Darkwolf. I am gonna get this out of the way right off the bat. I never saw Fire and Ice. I don't know how I didn't see it. What it comes down to is I like fantasy, I like barbarians, I like guys in pelts and bones holding axes and swords. But more than all that, I just like action figures. I was able to lay hands upon this at PowerCon and I was so impressed that I thought, I'm gonna need one of these. So I went out and got myself one of these. Looking at the package, very beautiful artwork on the front, but did we expect any less? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show this. Right there. It is embossed. It has a raised edge to some of the details. Not everything. I think if it was every little detail, it would just be too much. It's just enough to give it a premium feel. On the side, there's your logo, Fire and Ice, Darkwolf 1/12 scale action figure. On the back, just a description of what's going on, everything that comes with the figure, a scan me if you want to do that. On the side, nice promo pic of the character in an environment. On top, more logos. On bottom, barcode. More warnings, done 0 to 3, more logos, everyone involved in the project. The front flap does open with a little Velcro. There's a promotional shot of the figure, some information on Darkwolf, and then the figure behind clear plastic in its tray. So, let's get this thing open, see what's going on. Getting the figure out of the package, it can be misleading, or at least confusing, because it's such a tall figure that you almost think, wait, is this 7-inch scale? But it's not. This guy is just a big sumbitch. And we'll get to comparisons. I just wanted to get that out of the way at first because that was my initial impression. It was like, wait a second, is this actually 1/12? It is. He's just tall and thick. Very muscular body with the striations and everything, and then the hints of veins. It's not too in your face. It's subtle, as it should be. Catch the light just right and oh, there. Yeah, giving it a bit of realism. The skin has texture in places too. It's easier to see down here on the legs. See the slight roughness, the gruffness, the toughness. But then there's the fur parts looking all natural and very nicely sculpted with the ridges and the hairs and the individuals, but clumps and curlies hanging down. Okay, I shouldn't be pointing at the crotch and talking about curlies, huh? The top of the boots have that same fur, and then, of course, there's the headdress. Look at all that hair. Just very, very fine detail. Well, I guess I should say fur, right? It's coming back. You can see it slicked, going off to the sides, parted down the middle, then these coming down in front. Very soft material. That will not get in the way. Unfortunately, it's a little tougher back here, so up is going to be hindered a bit, but down has no problem because of the softness of this and the overlay piece. This necklace is also separate. Very rubbery, and usually I would get annoyed at stuff like that because you're moving around posing, but it seems to stay in place, especially with these. These are almost guides to keep the necklace going where you want it to go. The wraps are also very nice, and you see that dry brush on top to kind of bring out the detail. Those and the fur at the top are all one ankle overlay made out of that same soft material. So if you're articulating the foot, it gets out of the way because whoosh, it smashes it up and out. I have had it ride up a little bit to where you can see skin tone through there, but if that happens, all you gotta do is pull it down and it covers it back up. These bracers with the studs around the wrist, same thing. Overlay, soft material, you can slide it down if you want it to hide the articulation a bit more. It has this big belt to it, again, more silver studs, but brings in some gold color for the trim and the big buckle. And the hammered look, oh, it gives it so much character. Got some fur poking and peeking up out of the top of it, all the way around to the back, more gold, more hammered look. Again, that slight grayish dry brush helps bring the detail out, even when the light isn't as bright as what I have in the booth here. Then you get to the face and you have this staring back at you. It's intimidating. You can tell this guy's no nonsense. I haven't watched this movie and I know this guy's a badass simply because of this stare. Well, okay, he's stacked too, but just look at that. Going over articulation, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck. And like I said, this hanging down will hinder it a bit because while it's soft, there's just nowhere to go with it. Can look down though. It has a little bit of tilt. Looking to the left, looking to the right. The shoulder has layers to it. You've already noticed that there's no bicep cut, but the pin coming out allows the arm to rotate all the way around. There's a hinge that comes up to there, but this sculpt is actually a cap on the shoulder joint. There is rotation to it. It does run into the body because that's just how physics works. Even if that was a bicep cut, this would rotate into the body, and then this would rotate into the body in this position. Plus, it being a muscle guy, it's gonna jut out like that. It's just different. It takes a minute to get used to. For some extra rotation, there is a hinge and swivel at the elbow that comes up slightly past 90 and then swivels in and out. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Forgot to point it out, but this is also the same material, so it's got some flex to it. It gets out of the way of crunchiness. Arcs back, tilt, tilt, rotation. Hip has some layers to it too. There's a ball coming out to the leg, swings up, and kind of rides the crotch piece up and out a bit. Back, not so much, hinges out very nicely. And then the whole assembly swivels quite a bit. Hinge and swivel at the knee comes up to about 90 and then swivels on the bottom side. I would have preferred it to swing out this way, but at least it swings because of the top joint. Hinge at the ankle goes back. Again, this flexes up and out of the way, goes forward nicely, and then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, Darkwolf comes with 2 relaxed hands. Then those pop out. So you can pop in 2 stretched out hands, 2 fists. There are left and right grips, and then a right holding the arrow, drawing the bow hand. Of course, it's gonna come with a bow. The bow itself is a black plastic, maybe with some of that silver dry brush on it, and a string. You don't see that a lot, so I appreciate that extra effort, but will it be able to draw? Oh, well, okay. I don't know if I stretched the string or if the bow flexed. Is it coming untied right there? Then there's 3 arrows, also in black plastic. They have the sharp arrowheads on the end, and then each one has nice feather sculpt on the other side. There is one big difference between these 3 arrows though. This one has a longer peg here on the back, so it'll plug in between the fingers. These 2, I guess, are just more for display or dio or at his feet, something. This is the one you use for posing. Okay, bow in the left hand. I've actually got the string pulled back into the fingers back here, and it's holding it pretty securely. You'll notice the fingers are attached at the end, but there is an opening right there. What I've been doing is feeding the arrow on the outside of it, and then the end just plugs right into the gap. There you go. He's actually shooting the bow. That does stretch the thread, and it comes off a little floppy. What you can do there is bend the bow down and wrap the thread around one end a couple of times, and then when you let it go, it's back to being taut again. Then if you want to put it back in a shooting position, take it, untwist it, and then you'll have some slack to pull the arrow back. It's not the perfect fix, but that's just what happens when you make an actual bowstring in 1/12 scale. But if you're more of a blade guy, there's also this big honkin' axe. Again, with the beat up metal, it's seen some things. It's chopped, and it's been chopped. I like the black wash to this. It gives it a very worn look while bringing out all the nice detail. Not a problem at all recreating the front of the package, but we can go a step further because look at that face, look at the mouth. There are 2 alternate lower faces that you can swap in under the cowl. What I've been doing, and it's just easier, pop the head off, grab that, pull down, peg hole up in there. You just take that, pop it in, pop it back on. Not a problem at all. But speaking of popping and pulling and removing things, you can take a lot of these overlays off. Well, except for this, because it's the head. That is part of the head. But you can take this off, and then the necklace just slides right off. You can take the hands out, and then the bracers slide off the forearm. The torso is a dumbbell joint, so that just pops apart. Slide this up and off. And yeah, it's meant to do this. Well, okay, he's not anatomically correct, but there's a belly button sculpted up under there, and then there's your butt cheeks. Then there's the feet. Those are a bit more secure. Those pegs aren't supposed to just come on out, so that requires some heat. There you go. And with that, the upper boot slides right off the leg. And to keep them from getting mixed up, there are letters on the inside. There's an R. So there is naked Darkwolf. Well, again, he still has the cowl, and he's wearing his slippers, but if you wanted a clean base body, there you go. Well, it'd be even more clean like this if you wanted to add your own head. Size-wise, Darkwolf stands at, oh man, slightly under 6 3/4 inches tall. Check out the proportions next to the Hasbro Marvel Legends Vulcan. And I know Marvel Legends runs slightly larger than 1/12 scale. The Hasbro Star Wars Black Series is more true 1/12 scale. While he's taller than the Mezco 1/12 Collective Conan, they still fit proportionally. And then Darkwolf looks pretty good next to the loose collector Red Sonja. Just because I had them in the booth and they happen to be sword and shield types, here's the Hasbro Marvel Legends Crystar and Power Princess. Here's these two simply because I have them in here for the next review, and they're kind of barbarian types, plus they all shop at the same boot store apparently. This is the Mattel Masters of the Universe Classics He-Man and the Mattel Masterverse 40th Anniversary He-Man. Okay, I can't help myself with the Marvel Legends, especially since I remembered that Hercules is about that same size, and look, they fit together. Then here's the 20th anniversary Captain America just for giggles. This won't work with your NECA Dungeons and Dragons figures though. These are 7-inch scale, and you can see proportions, everything different. Same thing for McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures. So at the end of the day, a very, 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 very nice sword and sorcery figure. There is a little experimentation going on here, a little implementation of articulation points that we don't see in a lot of action figures. Those unfamiliar points can be hidden for the most part. Well, okay, we're all used to seeing bicep cuts at this point, but just because they're not visible here doesn't mean there's no rotation. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to rotate the arm all the way around, but it's what you get most of the time anyway with bicep cuts. So that doesn't bug me. The torso joint can get slightly open here and there, but it's just a shift over to one side or the other. The swivel below the knees is pretty weird. I don't think I like that too much. Again, I'd like to see the swivel on the other side and maybe the knee coming down over the joint instead of coming up and over it. Then I really, really like the ability to strip down the whole figure. I'm gonna have a hard time not finding something to customize this into. Although, like we talked about, it does have a lot of skin texture and the veins and everything, so I can't just throw a superhero costume on it. I can't just paint lines, because the first time I saw it without all the gear on top, I thought, you know what, that's pretty damn close to Captain Britain proportions, and that's always a bug in my brain somewhere. Better Captain Britain figures. Now, if I had all the money and all the time and all the space in the world, yeah, maybe I'd make a go of turning this into a superhero body, but I don't have any of those things, especially the money. So I am perfectly happy with having a kick-ass Darkwolf on my shelf. And no, I don't know Darkwolf, but I have the figure now, I have the character, I can look into those eyes and the stance, the stature, the sculpt, and just, yeah, I'm happy to have Darkwolf. I don't know who Darkwolf is, but he's a badass apparently, because he has a badass figure.